All right, you're listening to Opposites on the Fringe. This is episode 41B, a continuation of our two-part episode. We are a leftist atheist podcast sponsored by the Atheist Society of Knoxville. We're your hosts. I'm Dustin.
And I'm Sam.
I'm Alistair.
And because it was a two-part episode, we're all still drinking the same beer we had before.
Yeah.
So
I don't even have beer. I'm done.
Are you done? Well, I went and got another because I do not do this sober. This is the Lazy Magnolia Southern Pecan. Al still has the...
Gotta get up to get down.
Yeah. I'll cut all that out. It's fine. I'll just say... Whatever.
I like that we are still drinking the same.
No, I liked it.
Yeah.
Sam.
Don't even bother cutting it out. It's good.
Well, then I stopped mid-sentence.
Well, I guess edit mid-sentence. Get
Yeah.
on your game.
Fuck's sake, Sam.
Just leave all of this in. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
All right, so continuing on with our episode, we unfortunately won't be able to cover the Rittenhouse or the Arbery decisions that will probably
Or unite the right.
Or unite the right, probably because we won't be recording that week.
We will.
We will cover
will.
those as soon as we reconvene.
We'll have
to cover
things
that.
to say.
But we have some fun stuff for the January 6th. Old Shaman Boy got some time.
Yes, he did. He got what? Fucking
41 months. It's
that
3
was-
years and almost 5 months.
He's probably been one of the most repentive of the January 6th people. I think he has a mental illness. Like, that's already been established. He's probably on some meds now while he's in jail. He's probably a lot more clear-headed than he has been in a long time. And so, like, when he was on the stand, when he was doing his, like, final words to the judge before things, he was like, I realize what I did. This is not what I want to be. I don't, And the judge compared his speech to Martin Luther King, which I think is bullshit. But I do agree that I think he really realizes how wrong he was. He is the only one I will say that for.
Unfortunately, he was kind of the poster individual. I wouldn't say not poster, but the poster individual for, like, he was the face of the January 6th insurrection. That's probably what led into this kind of sentence. I mean,
And
the
that's,
prosecution...
the judge said that. He was like, you were like the poster boy for it, and that's part of the issue. And no matter how repentive you are, you still did these things.
Right. You're still going to be held accountable for the actions. I mean, he stopped actual proceedings. He was on the chamber floors, and I think anyone who was actually in that room, I think, will receive some harsh penalties.
Yeah, he was one of the first 30 in. I think he was one of the 30 that first went into the
Is he the
building.
first of those 30 to be sentenced, or is he just the most...
I think he's the first of those 30 to be...
I just didn't know if it's because of his notoriety, because the way he was pictured so much. So.
I think a lot of the people involved in the insurrection have gotten misdemeanors for just being in the building, and a lot of those have already been through, and some have gotten probation, a few have gotten jail time, like the white girl who said she will not go to prison.
Oh man!
And
that
the
was
judge
funniest
is
thing.
like, she was pretty much flaunting her privilege, and the judge shot her down on that. But they recognize how they treat this one, because he had felonies, and they know that the other judges involved are going to be looking at this case and kind of probably using that. And I think this judge wants to make sure that the other defendants involved in it actually see prison time. So.
Yeah, and we're also moving along. Merrick Garland came through. We had talked about Steve Bannon before, how he was just kind of avoiding the subpoena, congressional subpoena, which that happened all the time during the Trump administration, because Bill Barr, why the fuck would he care if GOP members were, just dodging? But we have a new, Department of Justice in there, and Merrick Garland fucking issued charges, and a federal grand jury indicted Steve Bannon on those charges for contempt of Congress, or avoiding the subpoena, and he turned himself in.
Yeah, did he do that Monday?
Yeah, he did. He did it this week. The Merrick Garland, the grand jury indicted him on Friday, so I think that's when he did it. But
And I mean, there's others that could get that. He's not the only one who refused to testify, right?
right, I think there's not that many more. Like we know, there's a lot of people that are cooperating with this, and you see that Donald Trump, did get a last minute save from the National Archives from releasing that.
Not really a save.
It was a reprieve. It was a delay. It was a
yeah.
postponement. The hearing will be, I think, on the 22nd of November. So again,
Next
we won't
week.
have this information while we're. This is a really bad week for two of us to be out of town. So we'll try to cover all those things when we get back. But I think we'll get. I don't see. I see this only as a postponement. I don't think executive privilege will apply, and the National Archives will be forced to release those documents that Trump is trying so fucking hard. He's still trying so hard to hide everything. His taxes, he's still trying to hide all those from Congress.
He's shitting his pants. He's terrified.
He's losing. I think he's going to lose both of those.
Yeah.
I think Congress is going to have the right to get both of those trove of documents, and because we know like he was over evaluating and under evaluating properties and businesses during during pre-campaign, and we know that there was some shit that went down. Or else, why are you fighting so fucking hard? Like there's stuff he doesn't want
because
out. Because
he knows that there's prison time associated with a lot of shit he's done.
Well, he should be in prison for many things. The Georgia law, the Georgia voter one, for
Well,
instance.
that one's still being investigated, right?
I haven't heard any news on that one, but this is just one of the. There's so many things coming at him that I really hope that.
Yeah, running
one of
for
these gets him
president
once.
was the worst thing he could have done for himself. It has to
I don't think he wanted to win.
He's going to be
I don't
on
think he
his
was-
deathbed
Fighting cases.
No, he's going to be on his deathbed regretting that, I think. Because he probably would. I mean, he'd still be making it, raking in the money. And
Being a piece of shit, but behind
yeah,
scrutiny from high.
right. So he put himself to a point where he has more eyes on him than ever before, and it's backfired.
Because Congress has more more power than some random prosecutor in some state. Like they can have access to documents and things like that. So yeah, but I don't think he wanted to truly win in 2016. I think it was just a way to boost his brand because the actions throughout his presidency showed he has no fucking clue.
You saw Trump Hotel in D.C. was sold, right?
I did see that.
Yeah, that's gone.
And they'll immediately change the name of that, but yeah, there's some consequences knocking on his door. So I don't know what Steve Bannon will ultimately provide as part of that. But Jan 6 information. This committee is talking to a lot of people. A lot of people are talking, and I think when this hearing comes through, Congress with those committees will have access to that.
Yep, I think so too.
Now, speaking of committees, was it Gosler, the one that shared the fucking anime thing of him killing AOC and attacking?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know how that guy knows about anime. Who made that for him?
Somebody made it for him, and he shared it out. But basically, it shows a member of Congress attacking a representation of another member of Congress by stabbing them in the back and then attacking Joe Biden.
Wait, did he teleport behind them and say nothing personal?
Like,
no.
This is a member. This is a elected member of Congress, but the House voted today to censure and strip Gosler of his committee assignments.
Good. Awesome.
But the GOP don't care. They'll still prop up their people. Like, I don't understand how a member of Congress think that that's okay. Like, to literally put out a video threatening another member of Congress
Because
they don't have consequences.
Congress is no longer made up of adults. That's why.
It was really boosted, I think, by Trump's rhetoric and how he attacked those that disagreed with him.
Yeah.
Personal attacks became a norm from not just him, but now from fucking Ted Cruz, like all the fucking piece of shit GOPers, and they really don't face any backlash rather. And I don't. It's just going to be the case because they don't care. They don't ever attack their own. Whereas, fucking Cuomo. You know how many people from on the left just went after his shit when all these things came out? Not a one came out that's on the GOP came after Matt Gaetz or
Right.
anything like that.
Well,
they don't attack. They refuse to attack their own, no matter what they do.
And that's why
The
they'll
left
always
is
win.
great at attacking their own.
Left
Great.
unity. Want to hear a good joke? Left unity.
Yeah, that's that's
Well,
it.
but I kind of find, I don't know, value in that, though. When you don't hold, just because someone agrees with you on most things, that you can't cancel them because of some shitty things they do. You don't. I think that's an admirable thing, that you don't just disregard a shitty thing someone does.
What I have an issue with the left's tactic is the left wants to constantly talk about restorative justice. This is somebody who's in these leftist circles. I've seen the infighting. There's always this talk of restorative justice, but I've never once seen it actually applied. And what restorative justice is pretty much, it's pretty much mediating a problem with your peers, where you're not just canceling somebody, you're educating them on their actions, what they did, how it made people feel, all of this stuff, and trying to keep them within the community, but make their behavior more acceptable to the community, to stop problematic behaviors. And I never see that done. In fact, recently, Anti-Fash Gordon experience, he's been pretty much kicked out of a lot of leftist communities because it said that he was abusive, financially abusive and emotionally abusive to an ex-partner. And one leftist organization like kind of blew this all up, but he's apparently tried to sit down with them to do restorative justice, really to show what he has, to show that the story that they've heard isn't true, and nobody will sit down and have these like conversations. Nobody will look at what he's done. He's been trying to, and I don't have a full opinion. I do know him. I've talked to him about all this. I have not seen the other party's proof of what he's done. Nobody has. I have seen his, though, that makes him seem not so much abusive, like it's told. So, but like, if there is this issue with him, like, I want to see the proof, because what he's shown me doesn't look like abuse.
So you're saying the left is just really quick to cancel?
They
sometimes?
are. They've
definitely
pretty
true.
much, Anti-Fash Gordon has pretty much been canceled because of all of this, and there's another big name in the leftist community who did some really fucked up shit. He kind of realizes it. Of course, when he did his public apology, he really didn't handle that well, because he bashed the left for coming after him. But what he did was he fucking slept with a fascist. So, like, yeah, we have some issues
He's
with
just like,
that.
but she was really hot.
She was, but like, it wasn't just one time. It happened over like 6 or 9 months. Like, it was a repeated thing. So a lot of people in the leftist community is like, well, what all did he tell her while he was fucking her? Which is legitimate. It's absolutely legitimate. And I'm not positive he should be welcomed back, but I don't think we're handling these issues
The
right.
thing is, the right knows that too, and they use it
They
against
do.
us.
Oh, yeah. When that went public about this person sleeping with somebody, a fascist, she's a fucking fascist. She's like, yeah, I did that. He hasn't publicly announced it, but yeah, I was totally fucking him. And like, it was serious, and like, they're fucking loving it. And they're loving that Anti-Fash Gordon got canceled because he fucking doxed a shitload of them, And so, yeah, they watch our drama.
They weaponize the left's reactionary responses to just canceling first, ask questions later sort of response sometimes.
Yeah, and I do not, because for one, it's happened to me. Of course, I handled it probably the best way I could. I kind of laid down, but I still continued working on my own. I obviously had some friends in town that were leftists as well that I could still work with on stuff. And because I didn't feed into the drama as much as some other people do, I kind of laid down. I'm like, just fucking let them talk. They're going to talk either way. eventually, because I kind of went quiet, but I was still doing what I do, people started realizing, okay, this is a bunch of bullshit, and I got welcomed back into the groups that I was in. Not everybody does that. Like, some people put bullshit apologies out and scream about how horrible the left is, which you're not doing anybody any favors there. Like, I think, like, we need to have restorative justice, but I think people that are in these situations need to know when it's best to just shut the fuck up for a while, rather, because, I mean, like...
They're eating themselves sometimes.
What I told one of them was, when this kind of drama comes up, the left is just like cops. Anything you say can and will be held against you or used against you. Just shut the fuck up. Because when people are upset with you, there's nothing you can say that's going to make that better. Anything you do say is going to be twisted. It's going to, things are going to be seen that you didn't actually say. And so it's just best, sometimes defending yourself is the worst thing you can do. And, yeah, that's the downfall for a lot of people.
But the right is, I would say the right doesn't. They don't really cancel each other. But
yeah, they don't care.
They did in one instance, and over a stupid reason.
Cheney.
Yeah, Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney was canceled this week when the Wyoming GOP votes to no longer recognize Liz Cheney as a party member.
Because she went against the right completely. That's why.
To them, so against the right to them was because she voted in both instances to impeach Trump.
Exactly.
So it's because the party of Trump has kind of overtaken the GOP, and when they see her now as against the party simply because she had values that she recognized that a member
morals
of her party
go
could be,
against the party.
Yes, she
It's
was
the
like
fascist party, and she needs to get the fuck out of it.
She really she doesn't have. She was forced out, so she doesn't have to get out of the party. She was no longer recognized as a GOP.
Now she can join the centrist Democrats because there is no left party.
Yeah.
She is very she's very centrist in regards that, or she's closer to a centrist. She's like, I would put her and Murkowski. I think I'm not sure if I'm correct on that one. That's also it's one of the GOP senators that tends to align with like women's choice issues. But yeah, Murkowski's one. I think Suzanne Collins is another that tend to be closer, but only on certain issues like women's rights issues. Outside of that, they are GOP. But yes, they straight up attacked and canceled Liz Cheney just for the simple fact that she didn't toe the line. So that's one of the rare instances that they cancel
right
on their end. So I was having a conversation with some coworkers, and it became very clear to me, and this is going to involve you directly.
Oh, yay. I love when I'm involved in your work shit.
Well, because you know this person.
Oh, okay.
You met this person.
I'm glad we came to that.
They won't stop talking shit about you, though, every once in a while. So you came up, and then they misgendered you. And so I corrected them, and there was two people, and that's when I learned that a lot of the people, especially right-leaning, really have no fucking clue about gender identity.
They don't. They have none at all.
They couldn't handle the fact that a person could not feel either female nor male. They couldn't reconcile that, and it actually kind of they kind of got angry about it. I'm like, well, it's very simple. This person doesn't feel as a man, and they don't feel.
This person
female.
thinks your gender norms are fucking bullshit and doesn't want to comply with a single fucking one of them.
So I learned that it's, you hear this a lot, like this, mainly from the right, that there could there's only two genders thing. Mm-hmm. And we know science tells us that's not the case.
Science
but
is...
they don't care about the science.
Well, they'll argue with you over the science
confuse
because they
sex
don't
and
understand
gender.
science.
They do confuse sex and gender, and that was one of the points I made as well. But why I kind of want to pick your brain is because I didn't explain it very well on mine, because it's kind of for people who don't understand like non-binary or transgender issues, period. But non-binary is the hardest one for them. What is the easiest way, or what resource to get people to understand? Because so what they said to me was like, I remember, which was kind of showed their fucking like low key fascism. Was like, I don't understand why this thing became a big thing. It used to be you're a girl or you're a boy, and now you have all these different genders. I'm like
back in my day, we had tomboys.
Yeah. First, they need to realize, like, okay, I didn't come out until I was around 35. And the biggest reason why I didn't come out is because I didn't have the words to express what I had always fucking felt. It's not new. We've always fucking been here. We just didn't have the language to be who we are. Since I was a kid, I always was the tomboy. But I also was very well aware that I wasn't a boy. Like, I didn't quite fit in with the boys, but I didn't fit in with the girls much either. You know, it was always this, like, in between.
in between.
Yeah. That's funny. I like that.
That's going to go on your Facebook some point, I swear.
But so, like, we've always been here. We didn't have the language. But, like, so I actually just went to Planned Parenthood yesterday, and I was really upset because they took my blood and stuff in the beginning, but I learned that they didn't actually test my testosterone levels before putting me on testosterone. And I wanted that number.
Like base reference number?
Well, yeah, because I've always suspected I've had more testosterone than most women anyway. Just not uncommon. Like, there's a lot of women who have high testosterone. And, like, it's just, I've always suspected I have. But now I'll never fucking know because now I'm artificially taking testosterone. So I'll definitely have those higher numbers. But, you know, it's the whole thing is we know through science that, you know, we talk about they're mistaking sex and gender. But no, even sex, there's more than one sexes. Sex, more than one sex.
More than two sexes.
Yeah, more than two sexes is
yeah.
Okay. I said that, and that's what I got hung up on. I'm like, that doesn't sound right, because the sex is where you get the chromosomes. You have XY or XX, but you also have like XXY, XXY. There's like a shitload of different combinations, so there's never been just two sexes. You outward appearance, you only see two sexes generally, but that's never what it's been. It's what our society created, but that's not the way things are. And other societies, especially indigenous societies, have always had more than two genders.
Yeah, I think it's they can't understand it's things that are outside the societal norm to them.
Well, it's just like when we talk about the libertarians and trying to explain a world without capitalism. They can't grasp what they've never known.
Especially when it works for them.
Right.
They have no need to look past what works for them.
So society has instilled everything is this way in them, and they can't break that. And like,
but it also makes them irrationally mad that other people are as well. So when talking to them, like they literally had a frustration.
Breaks their worldview.
They're angry that they don't understand something. That's what it is. They're angry because they don't understand.
No, I think they're angry because it's a challenge to their worldview. That if their worldview isn't correct, then their foundation. It's like when you challenge someone's religion, why they get angry.
We're saying the same thing, only differently.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, it's
you challenge the foundation of their world belief, and then everything else that is held on top of that, they have to look at now, and that's a lot of work.
Because
and,
they were. I mean, they were not. I wouldn't say heated, but like they were getting loud. Like they couldn't understand that someone could not identify as one or the other. It did not ring to them, and it was because, that's kind of the rights has always been kind of pushing that this is the way things are. And now they think that just because now there's this new way to express that, right? This whole the whole NB thing.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't have a penis, so I can't fully identify with a man. But at the same time, I haven't had a period most of my adult life. Like, so there's also a lot of things with women that I just don't identify with. I can't, link.
They fully think what's between your legs is how you should identify.
But, okay, I had a baby, but that's the only, womanly thing I think I've ever done,
Why do these people care so much? It's not their fucking life.
That's what kind of threw me off. Like, why are you so mad that someone is finally accepting?
I mean, I know the answer. That was
the most manly I've ever felt in my life was when I had to go pick out pads for a teenager who started their period, and I'm looking through this fucking aisle at all the fucking options, and I've been on birth control since I was 18. I got off of it, didn't have a period for several months. I maybe had 2 months of a period before I was pregnant and didn't have a period, and then I went back on birth control immediately having the kid. So since 18, I had maybe 3 periods. It's just so, I'm at the fucking grocery store looking at this big aisle full of all these different options, and I'm standing there. I had to text a friend being I have no fucking clue what to get. I'm lost in this aisle. I don't know. And then finally they're like, there's teen pads. Go find those. I'm like, all right. So now I know where to go to get them. But
yeah. So they have in their mind, I think, that they think that this new. They think it's. I don't know if they think it's a movement just because it's being talked about more, or it's
It's being talked about more because a lot more people have language that they didn't have before. My kid, 16 years old, they'll be talking about somebody and their best friend, kid named Matt. I've always known him as Matt. I just recently found out he's a trans kid. Had no fucking clue because most of my kids' friends are trans. The school they go to, there's a lot of trans kids at. These kids have language that we did not have. Had we had the language when I was 16, I would have been out then. I'm positive because I have friends I went to school with who have come out as trans since. There would have been more of us back then. We did not have the language.
But because we're for instance, you said at the school there's a lot of trans kids. I guess because now they have the
language.
They have the language. But that also leads these older right leaning people to think it's a generational thing only, or those are just trying to seek attention or.
If it's generational, then why do you have people in their 30s and 40s coming out as trans?
I didn't say it was the good argument.
Yeah, it's because in the last 5 years, a lot of my friends in their 30s and 40s, I won't even say 50%. I'd say maybe 20% of friends that I have come out as some form of trans, whether NB, female to male, male to female. I had a lot of them, and a lot of them, several of them, their kid came out, and when their kid started talking about their issues with them, they're realizing, oh shit, this makes sense to me. This is how I've always felt, and so they end up coming out a few years after their kids do. It wasn't that way with me. I came out before my kid came out. As we're both non-binary, but one of my it was one of my brother's friends from high school. They're in their 40s, and I think a lot of the things they didn't know a lot about. I was speaking out about it, and they were reading my post, and were like, things are clicking with me too, and they're fully transitioned now. Actually, about to get their surgery for top surgery and everything. But you look at them, and you wouldn't even know they're trans.
But unfortunately, a lot of these people are entering this world, and especially in our population, that just doesn't care to understand.
They don't. Well, it's
or to accept them as well, like because they in their mind they believe they firmly grasp that, and I think it's a religion thing too.
and
The
people
one male,
fear
one
what they
female
don't
thing.
understand,
Right.
and when they fear what they don't understand, they're not as open to learning about it as well.
Or out refusing to.
Yeah.
Like for me to try to even explain, they're like, it's just too much for me. I can't. And they noped out. Like when I was trying to, because they can't break through that barrier that they've held on to for such a long time, and so they're just outright refusing to.
But
Well,
here's
so-
the thing: so if I were to fully transition to a male, would they recognize me as a male?
No.
Yeah. See, they're just bigots.
I would say no, because to them it's what genitalia you have is what designates your gender.
So if I have surgery to have a penis, am I a man then?
I'm not going to answer on behalf of them.
No, I'm sure they'd say no. That it
They'd
depends
still
on what you were born
probably,
with.
yeah, you weren't bored with it.
I mean,
They're
the other
just
thing,
bigots.
the other reason why we see so many people on the right, like this has always been the history. Not even like throughout all of history, the people who are the loudest against gay rights, against trans rights, they have those thoughts themselves, and that's one of the reasons why they get so angry about that, is because of if they have to acknowledge someone else doing that, then they might have to acknowledge their own thoughts of that, and that will destroy even more of that foundation of their life.
What's fucked up, though, is it won't. Like, if they actually examine those thoughts...
Well, if
and
they're a
start,
fascist
like,
and all their friends
living
are
towards
fascist,
yeah, but...
and all their
I
families
mean-
are fascist, and yeah...
Yeah, you're not wrong that how a lot of the loudest people on the right have been closeted. Like they've been found to,
Yeah.
Yep.
especially underage too.
Yeah. In fact,
Well,
a
that's a whole
Virginia
different case.
teacher just lost his job, I believe, or I believe he's been suspended. Yeah, Virginia professor. He made comments in class about. No, it wasn't in class. He was on a podcast or something about minor attracted people, MAPS.
Okay,
And yeah, he defended them, and
as libertarians do.
as soon as I
As a
saw it, I'm like,
libertarian
he's a
would.
libertarian. But yeah, he ended up being he's been placed on leave for making those comments. He was saying that they're not pedophilia or pedophiles. He was just full on defending minor
Those
attracted people.
Do those people talk about the other side of things? About how there can't be a child attracted to an old man? Like, they act like, oh, we want to be acknowledged for that we like diddling kids. But
No, they you know, some big name people. Fucking who wrote Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, yeah.
Lewis
No, he was a
Carroll.
pedophile. Everyone likes to cancel people, but
but
they don't realize Alice in Wonderland
they do the
was written about a
Lolita.
guy molesting his kid.
It's like is it
No, it was
Lolita?
his friend's kid, actually. But
There's
yeah.
a podcast on Lolita.
Yeah, if you want to
It
talk
was
about Lolita.
really interesting, but they go over how
Lolita's interesting because it is written as you're not supposed to connect with the character.
right.
Yeah.
This podcast was actually a phenomenal, very educational on all of that, but they go over how these men make these young girls out to be the ones seducing them.
That is how Lolita's written.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read Lolita, I've just seen the Kubrick movie. I was not expecting it to be a comedy, but okay.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that you should listen to that podcast.
Are you familiar
It's
with it?
interesting.
I'm not. No.
It is written from the perspective of a pedophile, and he's just like, oh man, this young girl's just giving me the eye, like, type type of thing.
I've seen.
I
a lot
don't
of,
think it was originally. I think it originally was supposed to be written more as a cautionary thing, and I think that's what that podcast was getting at. But like the writer swears that he wasn't intending it to glorify those relationships.
It's definitely not written. Or there's been 2 movies made based on it. One was made by the legendary Stanley Kubrick. The other one was made in the early 90s. I've only seen the first one, but you're not supposed to connect with the character. It takes somebody that has a little understanding of maybe literature. I could see how it would be over the head of somebody. You're not supposed to be like, sweet, this pedophile was completely in the right. That girl really wanted it. But that's kind of how it's supposed to be inside the mind of a pedophile, of him justifying his actions and what he does.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, weirdly enough, recording themselves making that very case where they think the age barrier is arbitrary to them.
Yeah, they're libertarians,
Right?
They're just all libertarians.
They are, but it's also people on the right though too. I mean,
libertarians are on the right. That's why.
Okay.
They're capitalists who want a unchecked capitalism.
Yeah, I was reading something recently from an argument I got into with somebody of how Greek culture was very pedophilic too, and how that kind of like they saw young boys as sex objects, young boys and young girls as sex objects, and that kind of just became a part of their culture. How that, oh, that's okay when you grow up, now you can molest the young boys, and then it just turned into the Catholic Church.
It's always like middle-aged white men too that are making these stupid fucking arguments. Every fucking one, they all look the same too.
Well, what are the people? What did you call it? Maps?
Yeah.
I'm sure that they can't help it. From what I've heard, that it is some fucked up brain crossing. Sometimes, most of the time, caused by trauma in their life. That doesn't make it any better, but a lot of times they can't help it. Their sexual persuasions, but
they need to seek help.
They need to seek help, but that's not going to make me be friends with them.
Oh no!
Like
because they don't seek help. They want to act on it. They
well,
want
even if they did, it's still just as creepy. Like it
is.
What if you had a friend that was like, "Oh yeah, I've been going to therapy for my MAPS," and you're like, "What?" Like you'd still like not call them up for drinks the next week.
Valid.
I think so. We point the finger at libertarians a lot, but pedophiles can really infiltrate any community. So I got into an argument.
I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
I got in an argument with somebody on my page this week. This is over a post that he made probably
furries,
last
right?
year. Yeah, he flat out posted that furries are pedophiles. And it's been fucking eating at me. I've been absolutely disgusted. This guy's, he's a tanky on the verge of being red-brown alliance. Like some of his views are straight up fascist.
How did I miss this on your page?
Yeah, the pedophiles or furries argument is 100% fascist.
But a lot of furries are fascists too. So
no, they're not. They
are.
They're not. They had an issue about 4 years ago. They booted them. The fucking furry community was one of the first communities to properly address their issue with Nazis.
Yeah, I heard they had some infiltration in the community.
Yeah, they did. There was one.
I'm glad the Fur Reich has been taken care of.
There was a furry who straight up
Fur
wore
Reich,
a swastika.
They did wear it.
His furry costume included a swastika armband, and he got booted. They had little tolerance for it. But that's one thing he brought up, because he was like, well, some furries do molest kids. I was like, yeah, some furries may molest kids. I was like, but some leftists probably do too. I've heard stories. Every community, some Christians molest kids. Some atheists do too. Any community can have pedophiles in it because they're opportunist. They're going to look for a way. So around
But they are
World War
drawn to certain
II,
situations, which helps them do it, like religion.
I think it was around World War II, after in Germany, after the fucking war was done. You know, there was this big like push for more progressive attitudes and stuff, and so this progressive school started up for boys, I believe. And it turned out to be like a fucking pedophile ring, and they were the progressives, you know, and everybody was willing to send their kids there because they, you know, had this progressive point of view, and it was a change from what they had dealt with. So everybody was excited about it, and you know, pedophiles will take advantage of fucking anything. So they got into that school and started molesting kids. It's any community can end up with pedophiles in it, and it's how that community reacts to it and whether they get them out. Which the pedophile community, or no, I'm sorry, the furry community has been really good actually about addressing the problems once they realize they're there.
I have no problems with furry. I've known a lot of really nice furries. I went to a burn once, and there was a furry camp. There's a furry camp that's been to a lot of burns that I've been to, but there was one burn in particular where they would give away free coffee in the morning. So my mornings would be me groggily dragging myself out of my tent and going over to the furry camp and like being served coffee.
Through the teenagers in my life, I met a furry that will be one of the first ones volunteer to go to a protest with me, and will be on the front line ready to punch Nazis, you know, like, so I don't really much like people talking about furries. You know what? I don't fucking understand it. I don't get it. I probably never will. I don't care. You guys seem harmless to me. And you know what? You've helped shut down a lot of right-wing bullshit with the furry stuff.
I'm with you there. I don't understand it. It's not something I'm attracted to, but you're right. It's fucking harmless. You know, like, I don't understand LARPing.
Well,
I don't understand LARPing, but it's a thing people do, and it gives them enjoyment. It doesn't fucking hurt anyone except for
It's
themselves.
sex LARPing.
When it's talking about your
Sex LARPing? Let's go, boys.
It's
talking
sex
about your
LARPing.
coworkers not understanding the NB thing. You know what? You don't have to fucking understand it. Not everything is for everybody to understand. You're not going to fully understand it because it's not something you experience.
But I don't fucking care about it either.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't
Just
make me angry,
because
but it makes them angry that they don't
I know.
understand
Just
it.
because you don't understand something doesn't mean you can't accept it.
Right. Valid.
And that's the thing. I don't understand the furries, but I accept you as a furry. I won't ask you a bunch of questions because I don't care that much.
Yeah.
You seem happy. You got your little persona. Is it persona
I've
or
asked all-
persona?
no, it's persona.
I know
Persona.
I
persona.
have asked the questions.
Just
I know what
fucking-
your thing is now.
I just
I'll
fucking...
try anything twice. I haven't done that yet, but I'm not opposed to trying it twice.
Someone get Sam in a furry
Yeah.
body next
I
week.
mean,
Let's go.
I have the same mentality. Like, fucking dress me up, okay. I don't think I'll go, like, get off on it, but sure, let's try
Yeah,
it.
I'm in the same camp. Like, you know, I don't understand it. I mean, they don't bother me. They don't make me angry. Like, your mere existence, your full, like, you being non-binary, like, they couldn't grasp it, and like, I can't. Like, they literally threw their hands up because
I used to go to kink parties, man. I'd see people walking around in diapers. Don't fucking understand it, but you seem really happy to be able to be out in public in your diaper, man. Like, good for you. Enjoy it. I'm happy for you.
So that's ultimately what it is. It boils down to acceptance, and they have been taught to not accept those things and actually actively fight against those things, even though it doesn't fucking matter to them. It doesn't affect them one way or the other.
No, my gender in no way has any effect on anybody else.
Gay marriage affected nothing either, but they still fought against that too. Like, literally anything that they don't.
It's the
agree
Christian.
with.
They're Christian, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, there we go. Christians think that if the world is not happening according to their book, then
it's a sin. And
then
we should
no.
fight against it.
Well, they think that it will end the world. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
They think that if people do anything against their stupid fucking book, that's the thing of why I just literally hate Christians. People are like, "Oh, Christians can be nice." I'm like, "Yeah, but their book literally says if you don't do this, then the world is fucked up," and that's why you will never find them. Like,
I
they will
like
never be
the
moderate
Christians
enough.
who look at it all as
If they water it down so much that
allegories.
they're not Christians anymore, then sure.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
basically
that's
what you're
pretty
saying.
much the ones that are spiritual, and I
Once you-
believe in a God, but I don't really do.
Once
the
you
Bible.
get to a point, like, if you actually believe in that shit, then you have to be a piece of shit. And then if you get to a point where it's watered down so much, like, then you basically get to a point then you're like, why are you even in this religion, brah? Like,
Well, it's
why
not
are
even-
you
it's-
even going to stick connected with this group that is known for such hateful piece of shit? Why do you even want to have the same label as this?
But it's not even so much that it's the religion, because no one really follows the Bible anyways. They cherry pick it to their
exactly.
worldview. It's what they already believe and agree with, and then they'll cherry pick those things and believe those things because they're not going to follow everything else in the
It's
old.
what benefits them too, but it's their own hate. So the Bible says to hate gay people. They hate gay people. Cool.
But then they'll also disregard other things that it tells them not to do because it doesn't affect them. Mm-hmm. So.
Yep.
I don't know. I just don't like Christians. I've not met a whole lot that have actually been good people because they were Christians.
There aren't a whole lot. I have some on my friends list that I really fucking like.
I think when you dig into it with them, then yeah, like I said, they get so watered down that what's the point of even being? Why are you even clinging onto the label if you're gonna water it down so much?
I have one. They're Mormon, not Christian, but I was really impressed. I made a post about this recently where we were in a group together, and some of the people, when I started coming out as not straight, not cis, they fucking abandoned me. But like wasn't
this a parent support group?
Yeah, it was just all of our kids were born in the same month or two, so all of our kids, at least one of all of our kids were the same age, so it was kind of like, yeah, kind of support, kind of just being able to relate to people and, about parenting issues. And somehow or another, fucking transgender stuff came up, and this woman was telling me it was a mental disorder, and I was explaining to her, it's like, no, the depression, the mental issues that come with it come from them not being accepted. And I posted fucking research out of Canada that was showing, like, when it comes to suicide, there are things that will prevent trans teens from committing suicide. The biggest one is acceptance from family. Second one is acceptance from school and peers. So there's like just being accepted will greatly reduce the suicidal thoughts and shit. And so, like, the mental illness wouldn't be there if these trans kids were accepted from the get-go. And I explained all of this, and she didn't get it at first, and I was fucking pissed. I probably made that very clear in my last comment to her. And then it was like a day later, she came back, and she was like, I'm really sorry. I realize I was speaking on something that I do not know anything about, and I'm going to take time to learn. I appreciate you doing everything you can to educate me, and I've learned the lesson that I am not going to speak about things that I don't fully understand or know about anymore. And we're still good friends today. This happened probably I wasn't even out yet. I hadn't even come out as not straight at the time. So this was probably about 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
That's kind of a rare quality. You don't see people who...
You don't, and I like
because ego drives people. Ego drives people to do some stupid shit because they can't admit that they are willing to learn in a situation. Mm-hmm. And it's tough sometimes, even for me, where I'm like, oh, fuck, I hate being wrong, but I'm always willing to ultimately change. And it's like, yeah, okay, I was wrong, and I now accept and believe this now. But
it doesn't bother me one bit to be in an argument with somebody and then to be like, oh fuck, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Like it's not. In fact, a lot of times I'll get into it with somebody. This happens a lot with my niece, where we're going back and forth, and then like later I'll be like, "Hey, I was wrong. I realized I said this and this and this wrong," and the conversation's dead. But it's bothering me that I was wrong. I said something that was wrong. Let me come to you and let you know that I realize I was wrong.
I think it really also matters, like on what you were wrong about or what view is being challenged, because if it's the more you hold on to it, or the more like a part of your life that view was, Like if it's a major view of yours that's wrong, that's where the pushback and refusal to accept becomes, and a lot of that is based on their religious views and what they were brought up and how they were raised, and so they refuse to let those things go, despite any amount of overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, because there's on the non-binary issue, there's so much data out there that proves there are more than two genders. There always have been more than two genders.
Yeah, but they separate, I guess, psychology from anatomy. They can't separate it. Is what I meant to say.
Well, a lot of them didn't fucking go beyond high school in biology, and that's part of the problem. Is high school teaches XXXY, so that's all they fucking know. They don't understand biology. They don't understand, and a lot of people have no desire to really learn more. They've gotten their high school education. They don't, like, I know you and I will see something we're unfamiliar with and fucking dive into it and read everything about it, and I want to understand this. They don't have that instinct in them to, oh, this is something completely new to me. Let me learn about it. They don't have that. They're just like, not important to me.
That's
or
also
doesn't
why the
apply to
right
me.
attacks the school system, because they know a lot of those people are not going to pursue it. So they want to make sure that their knowledge ends there in a very sterile atmosphere where they can protect which books they read.
But it also causes a problem on the other side too, where they're also where they won't want to look into things. That means they'll also accept some things as true without looking into it. That's where propaganda and memes become very persuasive to these people.
Right. And
because they'll see a meme that has a scientific word or looks professional, and without even looking into it once to verify the veracity of this item, they accept it as true and share it on out.
Confirmation bias. They want it to be true.
it's like Botox or borax baths will take away the vaccine.
Yeah, they want it to be true.
That's what it is. They want it to be true. I mean, that's why, you see the culmination of fucking generations of the school not teaching proper history, just not teaching the real things that people need to learn, and what it's resulted in a bunch of millennials who are pissed the fuck off because everything we learn, or a good chunk of what we learn, is not fucking correct. And so they see us now being pissed, and we're going for the schools in different ways. That's why the push for the schools. Because they're really worried. And once again, these are the same adults that were fucking of the generation that threw bricks at Ruby Bridges, or threw rocks at her. It's the same ones that were raised around segregated schools. And so they see this change. They see us realizing, no, you guys were all bullshit. This is what really happened. But they don't want that fucking truth out there. So that's why they're...
That's why the big push.
Yeah. Because it's been figured out. Like, if we hadn't figured it out, the shit with the school board probably wouldn't even be a thing. But we figured it out. We're teaching our kids the true history about Christopher Columbus because these schools to this day are still teaching that Christopher Columbus fucking discovered America. My kid didn't learn that. Well, they did in school, and then they came home and mentioned Christopher Columbus, and I was like, let me give you the real history.
Right.
They can word it differently. Christopher Columbus discovered America for the Italians. Spanish, sorry.
Yeah.
The Italians love Christopher Columbus.
But
it's because...
But yes, they need to put everything into context that there's a whole lot more things in the world going on, that he connected the Western world and started the battle for the New World. But before that, Vikings and other...
They also think it's an attack on...
to teach that when they came over here, they spread smallpox. They need to teach more about...
Well, they need to teach that most of human history
everything that happened with the indigenous people.
They need to teach that most of the human history is bad guys winning.
But they
constantly.
won't. They don't want history being taught that's real history that paints white people in a negative light, and that's what they're That's what they're fighting because they think it's just teaching white hate by actually
And
teaching
you know
actual
what?
history. That's literally what they think.
Yeah, instead they
I
just need to teach
understand
that
that,
humans are
but-
garbage. That there is no color to humans being garbage. That every culture in the world has problems in it.
When I started learning the real history, there was never a point when I felt internalized hatred for what
I feel
my
internalized hatred for being a human. We're fucking gross.
Well,
Fuck
yeah,
all of us.
there's that, but like it was never like there's never been like this part that thinks this is my fault that it's happened. I do understand that I benefit from white privilege. I recognize that, but that's also nothing like I'm not proud of it. It's not, I try my best to use it to, I guess, prop up voices and that won't otherwise be propped up and stuff like that. But as far as like internalized hatred,
why not hate the whole human race?
Yeah,
We're all
like,
garbage.
It's you can look through history,
And I fucking do. We're fucking trash species.
No matter anybody you look at in history who may have done good things, you're going to find that they did bad things too. Anybody. I think there's probably some stuff even in Martin Luther King's past that people will say that probably wasn't a good thing to do.
Gandhi was a piece of shit.
Gandhi, I mean, it's we're human beings.
That's
Everybody
human
does
too.
good
That's
and
also
bad,
why I
you know?
don't
And-
cancel an artist when they're canceled. I don't want to view art. I want art as an expression of the human experience, and douchebags and pieces of shit you can learn just as much from paying attention to their art about what it is to be human as you can from pure people that haven't been outed yet. I'll say yet.
It's like, so I went to Washington, D.C. with the kid once and went to the FDR Memorial. Was really fucking impressed. I'm like, this man's amazing. He did a lot of great things for this country. And then, not at that memorial, I learned that he was the one responsible for the Japanese internment camps. Like, I thought he's great. So I finally got to a point of, like, what's the fucking point in heroes? Because
there isn't a point in heroes.
There's not. We have to be able to analyze people in the past and recognize that the good that they did and the bad.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we're going to move forward. We have to acknowledge both that people did. Some really fucking bad people did some good things.
But
some really good people did some bad things. We got to look at them both.
But they don't. Is they whitewash history quite a bit, where they paint these people only in the positive light and leave everything negative out.
And the issue with that is we end up with a society like we have today, where we still have social or racial injustice happening.
But that's why they want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're not wanting to this whole critical race theory or actual history. They don't want actually being taught because they want to hold on to that.
Yeah, when I was in Savannah, I was playing a game of you see a statue, and it's like, how racist is this statue? Confederate, fuck.
The kid and I play that game when we go to whenever we travel
Let's play
anywhere.
a game of how racist is this statue, and very. The answer is very. It's a statue in the South, of course it's racist.
It's a pretty fun game because most of them,
Because every other
are
fucking...
racist.
It's particularly racist in America because we are the only country that has statues up of our traitors that lost.
Yeah. Of
Like,
course.
that's
that was
not
an
normal.
Intimidation.
Like, that's not fucking normal.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not normal to have a giant monument to the traitors who lost. But they gave their lives for their country. No, they betrayed the country and they lost. Fuck off, you fucking traitors.
Yeah, that is very, very strange.
It's not our government who put those there. It's the daughters of the
Daughters of the
Confederacy.
Confederacy, yeah.
And
Yeah, I was
they're-
watching an old 40s movie the other day, and I was looking up all the actresses. It's like, oh, she was a daughter of the Confederacy. Uh-oh.
Yeah, fuck those cunts.
But they're still fighting to like prevent those statues from finally coming
'Cause
down.
of
Like
the
it's like this thing
history.
it lasted for what? The Confederacy lasted what? 4 years?
Oh, they played Matthew Heimbach during the Unite the Right trial, talking about to try to explain why he went there, and the video was him talking about the removal of the Confederate statues. He's like, he related it to some other like kind of fascist regime where they removed all the monuments from history. They're trying to erase history. He's like, so he's like, they're trying to erase Southern people. They don't want the Southern people to exist. And then he's like, you Northerners, you should come out too. He's like, because next they're going to remove the Union monuments. And like,
yeah, we'll just start moving. Fuck all monuments. Yeah. No, remember nobody. Fuck nothing. Yeah. I don't want to remember anything ever.
Well, that's what everyone on the far right that's attacking the removal of those statues. They're like, oh, let's just erase all history then. You hear that all the time from them, so they would probably support that bullshit.
I just remembered something else from the Unite the Right trial that entertained me. I want to throw that in. So during the closing arguments, James Field's lawyer was pretty much saying that the defendants involved actually, like, absolutely committed, racially motivated. Like, this is James Field's lawyer, and he's like, yeah, this is actually happened. And like, you have to decide the amount.
That was kind of his opening statement too, though. Is like, my client's definitely guilty.
Yeah, he said it there, but for the closing arguments, he was saying they all did, and like he was insinuating that they all did. But of course, he's like, punitive damages are to make sure that they won't repeat this, they won't do this again. He's like, man, my client has 29 life sentences. He's not doing this again. It was pretty great.
Good stuff.
We talk about Enrique Tarrio.
I don't know anything about Enrique Tarrio.
So the Proud Boy leader who he was the one. He was not at January 6th, the insurrection. A lot of Proud Boys were. He was not, because he went in like a week or so beforehand and was arrested for burning the Black Lives Matter flag that belonged to the historically black church. He was also found with a couple magazines with Proud Boy logos on them, which are illegal in D.C. So part of his release was that he could not come back to Washington, D.C. until his court date. So he wasn't allowed to be at the January 6th insurrection. So he was found guilty of destroying that. He got 5 months in jail or in prison. So he's now trying to get his sentence shortened because of the inhumane conditions of the jail.
I did see that story. I didn't get it too deep into it because I had no sympathy for him. But then you made a point that I didn't think, because I don't have sympathy for him. I didn't think that, the conditions he's facing are also the conditions that other inmates are facing.
It's ironic because I want these people to suffer immensely, but I also don't believe in jail.
So, yeah. Well, my thing is we have to use the only system we have. I don't agree with it. But these motherfuckers, between Tarrio and the January 6th insurrectionists, I think they're going to get us some prison reform eventually. Because they've been so fucking whiny about the conditions that us on the left, we've been bitching about this. I've never been to prison. But, I think probably Louisiana, I think it was last year, I was posting constantly about the prison condition in Louisiana.
Is that the one that had, several inmate deaths?
Yeah, they had inmate deaths. They had, fucking water leaking all over the floors. It was fucking disgusting.
And prisons were among the worst for the pandemic too. That shit went rampant through there because they had...
I was listening to a podcast about Alcatraz prison, and they would be like, and they subjected their prisoners to this, and someone else would be like, well, no, they still do that.
Yeah, right. So those of us on the left have been screaming about prison reform. We want the prisons abolished, really. But these whiny ass bitches that, due to their own decisions are sitting in jail, they just will not shut up about the conditions. So Tarrio's asking for his sentence to be shortened to 90 days instead of 5 months. He said he is deathly afraid that something is going to happen to him in there.
Well, that needs to happen first, and then they can reform it.
Yeah, Tarrio claims he's endured serious abuses of his rights on a daily basis while being held in segregated units. Jail employees have ignored his request for medical attention, thrown cold, often inedible meals into his cells, and denied him access to running water in his cells.
You can't see it, but I'm playing the world's smallest violin over
Well,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, and this is the point that.
But
Alan
yes,
makes.
prison reform now.
Well, because we have no sympathy for these fuckheads, these fascists that were either, this in this instance burning the flag from the historical church, or all the insurrectionists. We don't have sympathy for them, but they're not the only ones in the prison system. A lot of their people are there on fucking drug charges. And
a lot
shit
of
like
drug,
that.
Drug charge, nonviolent
And
drug
so,
charges.
but they're also facing the same shitty conditions that ended up in.
But the right's listening to them. Now that they're complaining, the right is also complaining about the conditions of these prisons. So I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing. If the right starts complaining enough about the prison conditions, because their heroes are in there,
Right. Facing these
we
terrible
may get
systems.
some actual prison reform, because that's something the left and the right's going to be united on now. On fucking, we need humane conditions if we're going to have prisons. Now, I don't know. I'm not completely 100% on prison reform, because I think there's still going to be an issue, or completely on board with prison abolishment. Reform, absolutely.
Reform to the part where you're trying to reform, not punish people.
Right.
It's
Right.
I do agree there are some people that you cannot reform. There are some mental illnesses where part of the mental illness is you cannot accept that you have that, so you can't get better.
Don't
so
think
there are
people
some
with
things you
mental
can't
illness
reform.
should be in prison.
I'm talking about people that are sociopath, psycho murderers.
Even some of
part
them.
part of their symptoms is that they can't acknowledge that they have that, so they can't work on it. There's no getting better for certain people. So
Narcissists.
yeah, exactly. Part of a system of being a narcissist is you can't admit that you're a narcissist.
Right.
So you won't get better at being a narcissist. Same thing for being a psycho murderer. You won't admit that you're doing anything wrong, so you'll keep doing whatever.
But while those people can't be reformed, they should also be in better conditions.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not saying
The difference between a narcissist and a psychopath, though, is
There's a difference, yeah.
a psychopath,
You can be
when
both.
they're actually caught for their crimes, they'll admit to them. They know they're wrong. They just don't feel that they're morally wrong.
a
for
narcissist
them.
will twist it in a way.
A narcissist will continue to lie, even when you're confronted that you've caught them in a lie. They will not fucking admit to
when
it.
they
We've
finally-
lived through Trump for 4 years. We know.
When they finally
Psychopaths
admit to it,
will.
they'll flip it on their victim.
Most
and act
psychopaths,
like the
especially
victim.
serial killers, once they're finally caught, they're proud of what they've done. They know it's wrong, but they don't fucking care.
But yeah,
but-
they still deserve to keep puppies in jail and
Yeah,
have some human
and that's
attention.
what I was going to say. Prison
Treating
for,
them like monsters makes them worse monsters.
we're already going to we're always going to have
Unless they're
people
in
who
jail
will
for
kill.
killing puppies. Don't give them puppies.
We're always going to have people who kill in society. There's going to be issues that, even if we completely get rid of poverty, there's still going to be some crimes that exist. A lot of them will be reduced. I still think we need some kind of system to deal with those. I don't know if prison is the right answer.
It needs to be a humane system looking to reform people. The current prison system is a business that is built to make itself more money.
Yes, it's privatized in a lot of ways.
Like the revolving door of prisons is, like I said, it's not broken. It was built that way.
Yes.
It's built so that once you're in the prison system, there is no way that you can actually get out of it. Once you're back in the real world, you won't have any other opportunities except to do more crime. So you can go back in.
I think the problem is it affects, people that suffer diseases or addictions as well. You know,
Yeah, it's
Well,
a
this
health-
kind of feeds into our ACAB of the week, of the 2 weeks.
of the 2 weeks.
of the 2 weeks. It'll only be on 41B.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is ACAB of the week.
6 Georgia sheriff deputies have been indicted on a murder. This happened in 2018. His name was Anthony May. This just fucking saddened me reading it. He was 32 years old. He was in the Fulton County Jail. He was on meth, but he was having a mental health crisis while he was on meth. Ended up getting taken into jail, which shouldn't have happened. He got sent to the hospital first, and the hospital said that he had drug-induced, like, schizophrenic symptoms. So I see that, and I'm like, this is a person who needs medical care. He was peacefully arrested. So what he was throwing rocks at the windows at the American Red Cross Society in downtown Atlanta. He was peacefully arrested and then taken to the Grady Hospital for medical clearance. It was a substance abuse psychotic disorder is what he was diagnosed with. He was booked for suspicion of misdemeanor criminal trespass. He went through a second medical screening by the paramedics at jail who noticed he had fucking amphetamines in his system and that he was suicidal. Another, like, this person should be in a hospital. He ended up going into a general holding cell. He ended up, like, fucking masturbating. He undressed and masturbated while he was in the cell. And they sent in the direct action response team, who went into his cell saying it is Taser Tuesday. They started tasing him, spraying mace in him, like, tased him repeatedly. He then took him into the shower area for decontamination. When the shower did not remove all the pepper spray, officers put a water hose on May's face while he was restrained in the chair.
So, like, vertical waterboarding.
May went unresponsive and died on the floor of the jail, laying in a pool of his own blood.
So I saw the same article, and I read where they literally said out loud, a detention officer said it's Taser Tuesday.
It's Taser Tuesday. They went in there excited about being able to beat the fuck out of this guy. And, I mean, they tortured him. They straight up fucking tortured him.
They tased him like 3 times.
And, like, think about this. The decontamination process, all of this is probably over 2 hours at least that this man endured all of this before dying.
But again, I want to focus back to what probably ultimately killed him was he was constrained in a chair. He was restrained in a chair, and they were essentially waterboarding him to death by spraying him in the face. And can you just imagine the fucking fear where you can't? I mean, so one of my fears, like the worst way to die for me, like, everyone has that. What's the worst way to die kind of thought, and drowning, I think, would be among those, where you can slowly see, feel your death. And he's sitting in a fucking chair after being fucking beaten.
Drowning and burning are the
right.
Would be the two worst.
Because, but drowning, you're slowly feeling, knowing your death's coming. And this guy is restrained in a chair by authorities and being literally waterboarded to death by just being sprayed in the face after already being tased 3 times. They didn't say by how many times or how many tasers they just said how many times he was tased. I mean, how many of them tased him? Do we know? Or was it just the one they just kept hitting him?
They got him. They as soon as they entered the cell, they shot the prongs into him and tased them immediately, and that said it tased them 2 more times.
So a total of 3 times. So it was the same taser then.
We're not even positive that it was just 2 times.
Right, okay.
We'll see. But what gets me about this, 2 things. First, this man needed mental health care. He needed fucking drug treatment. That's all he fucking... Throwing rocks at a window. It doesn't say he busted out the window. You could have intervened in that time, gotten this guy the help he fucking needed. He wouldn't even need to fucking serve time in jail. You could have rehabilitated this man and got him back into be a productive member of society, but he's fucking dead.
And that's why we scream. This particular situation is exactly why. Well, not only do we say fuck the police, because not only should they not just tased and kicked to shit and kill this person because they're pieces of shit and murderous bastards, but they shouldn't have been called in the first place.
This is 6 deputies, 6 of them. 6 horrible human beings that did this to this man.
They shouldn't have been called. A mental health or mental crisis expert should have been available, and that's the whole point. Every time we scream to defund the police, we mean call someone who can fucking handle a mental crisis or a drug addiction problem, something that doesn't require someone being detained and beaten.
The second thing that gets me with this is the Fulton County Medical Examiner determined May's cause of death to be sudden cardiovascular collapse due to probable excited delirium with physical restraints used due to acute methamphetamine intoxication. It listed other significant causes as the use of a taser and exposure to pepper spray. So, excited delirium isn't a fucking thing. It was created by the cops to excuse. So these medical examiners, they pretty much, like, I don't know if the cops requested, if they're just work so closely with the cops that they just know now, if the cops are involved to do excited delirium. But it is not an actual fucking condition. It doesn't exist. It was created by the cops. The only, I think there's 2 fucking hospitals or 2 medical things that will recognize it. And they've both been bought and paid for by the taser companies. It's all, the taser companies and the police are the ones who came, because the taser companies don't want it to come out that their tasers cause death. So they were on board with this excited delirium because it gets them off when their fucking tasers cause death.
And this is another instance of, I've talked about probably on more than one occasion, of how slowly we are to charge the police. This incident occurred literally more than 3 years ago. Yep. September 11th, 2018 is when they murdered him restrained in a chair. And here we are now 3 years later, finally getting them indicted by a grand jury, and that says nothing to whether. Now, I'm assuming based on the facts of the case that it will probably result in convictions. But I mean, 3 years, someone that died in police custody, restrained to a chair.
Yep.
How does that happen? How does that fucking happen? Someone literally died while restrained in a chair because they were sprayed in the face. What defense do they have to delay them being charged for 3 years? To have them have an investigation that finally said they murdered him, or they charged they were indicted for murder. They actually used a murder charge. 3 years.
So the family is also suing. There's a lawsuit currently pending in federal courts that named Fulton County, the county sheriff, 13 jail workers, the jail's private medical care contractor, which is NAFCare, and NAFCare paramedics for the death of May. This guy had a family. He had 2 kids, mental health issues, and a drug problem. He shouldn't be fucking dead right now. He should have had his issues addressed. It just,
they're just being bullied. They got to play bully again.
Yeah. And okay, so 6 are indicted, which means there's at least
they said there were 13, so 7.
So 7 more that's either knew it was going on and did nothing.
Yeah.
And how I don't understand. I know there's the Milner experiment, which apparently was flawed in a lot of ways, that people with authority, if told to do, if the people around them are doing cruel ass things that
I mean,
they'll
it draws
go
those
along.
people too, but yes, it
Yeah,
validates
I think
people.
that's
It
more
validates
what it
the worst
is.
in people. It also I think that parts of that experiment are true. I think it validates the worst in people, and people want to, fit in with their peers, and it brings out the worst in people. People, like I said, people are garbage. If everyone around, it's peer pressure. It's like, oh, don't you want to beat the prisoner up too? And they justify it. Like I said, the whole prison system justifies it. The part of being they dehumanize the prisoners, so they feel like the people they're treating like shit aren't human. They already feel
Very
like
true.
they're better than them. It is an us versus them thing. I think that a lot of the people that it's the same thing with cops. Are you a piece of shit? A lot of pieces of shit join the cops because they're pieces of shit. But then the people that go into it for good reasons become pieces of shit.
So Enrique Antorio is bitching because he has some water in his cell from the cell next to him overflowing. And then you have people, and fucking Mays isn't the first one, that are literally being killed by their guards there, beaten to fucking death. But fucking whiny ass Tario may get out early because he's had some cold meals and there's water on his floor. But yet fucking Louisiana, the entire fucking section of a jail was closed out or was flooded. Standing water, fucking shit floating in the water. It was absolutely disgusting. I don't even know what happened with that, but inmates started getting their fucking cell phones and releasing videos, which of course there were people being like, they're not supposed to have a cell phone. I don't fucking care, man. If conditions are like that, I'm glad that they're putting them out there. But yeah.
Yeah, this incident definitely showcases the horrible situations within prisons and how they, like Sam said, they're not humans, so they can treat them as fucking animals that they can beat and abuse and make them do their bidding.
Yeah, that's why they make them, before you're a cop, they make you work in the prisons and jails so they can be like, look at the animals you're going to be working with. These are the people in public. Your job is to make people come here because this is who they are.
We got about 3 years, is my estimate, to get some prison reform. Because as soon as the J6 people get out of prison, the right won't give a shit anymore. We need to really fucking figure out how to hone in on their anger over January 6th and get them on board with prison reform, fucking now.
Well, and in addition to that, it's also we need to reform our fucking drug laws as well that are putting these people in prison.
We do. I mean,
it's all connected.
I mean, most of the people sitting in jail aren't even fucking violent offenders. And even some of the violent offenders sitting in jail probably, there are other rehabilitation methods than what they're in. It's not rehabilitating at all. It's just a holding place before you let them out to do more shit. Mm-hmm. There's no rehabilitation happening.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for episode 41B of Apostates on the Fringe. Thank you guys again for joining us this week. As always, continue to share out the show everywhere you can and check us out on social media. If you'd like links to the articles or to contact the show, visit us at apostatepod.com, and we'll see you all next week.
Like to shout out to System of a Down teaching me about the prison system when I was just trying to listen to some metal music.
Right?
Thank you all very much.
Apostates on the Fringe. Apostates on the Fringe.
The views and opinions of the hosts of Apostates on the Fringe do not represent the views and opinions of the Atheist Society of Knoxville. For links to all our musical contributors, go to apostatepod.com and check the About Us page. A big thank you to Michael Scott Arden, who allows the show to use his full catalog.